Man, what a trip this was. I never thought I would find one of my favorite pop records in video game form, but here we are, I guess. Let me tell you, man, it's been a minute since I've gotten into a rhythm game. And when I mean a minute, I mean a fat minute, since the last rhythm game I got into was Rock Band 2, which came out in 2008? Actually, wait, I take it back. I was also into the DJ Hero games, which came out a year after. I was pretty good at them, although no one really gave a shit because by that point, those games were already on their way out. Anyway, for those that haven't heard and are currently bewildered by all the neon lights on screen right now, this is Sayonara Wild Hearts. Simogo's 2019 pop album game that surprisingly won a couple of awards. What the heck is a Simogo? Well, they're a Swedish indie game studio made up of just two guys, Simon Flesser and Magnus Gardback? Anyway, they've been in the game for a little minute developing well-received mobile games such as Year Walk and Device 6. They were both narrative-based adventure games that pulled at the mind and got you thinking. This game is the opposite in that it's all about the feels and experience. Also the aesthetics. The aesthetics of this game are pure eye candy, let me tell you. But before we get into that, you're probably wondering, what's with this masked lady that looks like she belongs in Persona, and why is she going through what looks like a hipster's acid trip? Well, surprisingly enough, this game does have a story. It's pretty abstract, and it's one of those that you have to kind of piece together with minuscule information. So you got this separate universe that's watched over by three arcanas based on those tarot cards. One day a cursed arcana called Little Death and her allies came to steal all the harmony in the world. This caused the three arcanas to fade from existence, but before they went kaput, they created a divine arcana which flies off into the real world. Meanwhile, in the real world, you have this young woman whose heart's been broken, and as she's resting, gets reached out by that divine arcana and transported into the other world. She uses that arcana to become the Fool, a mass heroine that faces off against the corrupt arcana with fabulous poses and unbridled lesbian energy. I probably should have put an epilepsy warning at the beginning of this video because Jesus Christ, this game is flashy. A fucking purple and pink visual assault. A graphical designer's wet dream, really. Strangely enough, this game's color scheme reminds me of that one Foster's Home episode where Mac goes through that sugar rush. Can't think of any other game that's this dark, yet so colorful at the same time. It's pretty surreal stuff. The minimalistic look of the characters and environment also adds to that. I guess I'm still a sucker for that retro meets now look. You don't really have time to soak it in though, since this game is on rails and moves at a breakneck pace. However, it's made up with some sweet transitions that not only play around with some unique camera angles, but also goes with the music perfectly. The only complaint I have visually is that some of these hearts you have to collect can blend into the environment too much. It's an incredibly minor point though. How's the music? Pretty damn good. It's that kind of dreamy synth pop, electropop stuff you would hear from someone like Carly Rae Jepsen or Porter Robinson. Not really the type of music I listen to daily, but I can dig some of this stuff. A lot of the songs here are well produced. Heart-thumping bass lines, soaring synth flares, bright lush melodies, catchy hooks. Though the music is very much synth pop, it does do a good job diversifying itself over its runtime. You got a handful of songs sung by Linnea Olson that are the usual grandiose pop songs, but you also got some really somber ambient tracks and frantic electronic instrumentals to balance things out. Being a hip hop guy, I'm definitely more inclined to the groovier tracks like Parallel Universe and Forest Dub, the former probably being the best level in the game. The way they incorporate those Gemini twins snapping to the beat and changing the world was super dope. Not every song is all too memorable, but it doesn't really matter since they're usually well placed in the track listing. You know how when you listen to a good album, there's usually like 2 or 3 songs you don't care for too much, but in the flow of the album they work? It's kind of like that. I'm mostly talking about these heartbreak songs that are usually really short instrumentals. They serve as interludes and transitions between every Arcana face-off, which I like. It enhances the epicness of the singing tracks, which are usually saved for the final face-off against these people. A lot of these songs are elevated by the visuals though. I tried listening to the album on its own, and though the songs are still good, it just doesn't hit the same. Not to mention the actual album isn't in the correct order, which, why? Anyway, props to Daniel Olson and Jonathan Eng. The music in this game slaps. It's not going to appeal to everyone, but it's not supposed to. If you're this far into the video and the visuals and music aren't doing anything for you, then you might as well click off now since those 2 aspects are the main selling point here. Unless you really like QTEs, the gameplay really won't change your mind. Okay, to be fair, there is a little bit more going on here than just pressing A to the music. We actually got a whole bunch of different gameplay types that this game likes to cycle through. Though the majority of the time you're going to be seeing this on-rails motorcycle stuff. You usually have to dodge obstacles while collecting these hearts to get the highest score you can. At the end of each stage, you're given a rank depending on how many hearts you get. Gold being the highest, of course. So yeah, this game has a very straightforward arcade style of design to it. Those that have played something like Star Fox should feel right at home here. If you're looking for a rhythm game that gives you crazy multipliers and different ways to attain a high score, then you're not going to feel at home here. This game is very much a curated experience by the developers. Even with some of these shifts in gameplay, it's pretty clear that there's a specific way that you're supposed to go through these levels. Very on rails, to the point where someone that doesn't even play games can probably beat most of these levels in one go. Usually I don't like this type of stuff in games, but for this one, I don't really mind that much. For one, the way you move through these stages is so expertly tied with the music that when you go through them, you're naturally moving with the rhythm. First time going through this game, you're definitely going to be losing a good amount since there's some obstacles that you can't see coming. Thankfully, when you die, you're thrown right back where you failed immediately, with the song acting as if nothing ever happened. It makes the game super easy, especially if you're just trying to beat the stage, but I think this was the right call since this game would be really annoying if you had to keep restarting from the beginning. Things are a bit more challenging when you try to go for gold. You usually have to get these gold coins, which are usually out of the way. This means that you typically have to replay levels over and over again to memorize the placement of these things. Luckily, many of these levels are only as long as the songs, which are usually only a minute and a half long. Short and to the point makes these stages highly replayable. Let me tell you, man, it's all fun and games when you beat a stage in this game, only to hear, by the way, that voice is Queen Latifah. Don't know how the heck they secured her. Not to say that she's some untouchable A-list celebrity, but not really someone you expect to hear in a Swedish indie game. So yeah, that's Sayonara Wild Hearts. A mesmerizing experience to say the least. This is just one of those games that makes me feel warm inside whenever I play it. It more than fulfills its intentions on being a great record, but in video game form. And like many great records, it's probably something that I'm going to play on repeat in the future. Highly recommend this game for anyone that's looking for a unique experience. I would also say buy this one whenever it goes on sale, since $13 for a 1.5 hour game is asking a bit much. Anyway, that's all I got to say about this one. Until next time.